I could still hear June laughing as she sealed the last strip of tape over the wrapping paper. "You're insane," she said, her voice muffled by the cardboard walls of the box. "Are you sure about this?" I shifted, the satin of the red lace lingerie brushing against my skin. My knees pressed into the velvet cushion June had thrown inside for comfort, but it didn't stop the ache already blooming in my thighs. "I'm sure," I said, louder this time. My breath fogged up the tiny holes we'd poked in the box for air. "I owe him," June snorted. "You don't owe him anything." It wasn't even true. I sighed. That's not the point. It wasn't. The truth was Francis and I had been to hell and back these last few months. Whispers, glances, late nights at the office that bled into suspicions and fights. Words that couldn't be taken back, accusations that left bruises no one could see. But we made it through. Barely. And now, 2 days before Christmas, I wanted to remind him what we still had, that heat, that hunger. The reason we couldn't keep our hands off each other when we first met. Francis deserved this. We deserved this. June's voice broke through my thoughts. "You realize if he doesn't open this box in time, you'll suffocate, right? Then you'll have to explain a lot to the cops." We both laughed, but there was an edge to it. I wasn't nervous, not really, but there was something about the stillness inside the box that made me feel like prey. Trapped and waiting. June knocked on the lid.
"Okay, and?"
"He's supposed to be home in 20 minutes. Text me when it's over." "I will. Merry Christmas." The last thing I heard was the front door closing and the sound of her car pulling away. The silence hit me first. The kind of quiet that isn't peaceful, it's heavy, like the walls were closing in. My breathing slowed and I tried to focus on what this was supposed to be. A surprise. A gift. I thought about Francis walking through the door, loosening his tie, tired from the holiday rush at work. Thought about the look on his face when he saw the enormous red box sitting in the living room, the gold ribbon tied into a bow. I imagined him pulling it apart, layer by layer, until their eye was all for him. But the longer I sat there, the more my thoughts wandered. What if he didn't open it right away? What if he thought it was some delivery and didn't touch it until tomorrow? Or worse, what if he wasn't alone? My stomach knotted. I tried to push the thought away, but it lingered, sharp and nagging. It wasn't fair. Francis had done nothing wrong, but the past still hung between us like smoke. We'd talked it out, mended what was broken, or so I thought. But sitting in that box, waiting, the doubts crept back in. I don't know how long it was before I heard the door. The jingle of keys, the creak of the hinge. He was home. My heart leapt, pounding so hard I was sure he'd hear it. I held my breath, waiting for the sound of his footsteps. I held my breath as I heard the creak of footsteps circling me. My legs burned from crouching, but the ache was nothing compared to the heat rising in my chest. It had to be Francis. I bit my lip, already picturing his face when he opened the lid. The surprise, the hunger. I imagined his hands tearing away the wrapping paper, his voice dropping low as he saw me in red lace. But then fingers. They slid through one of the small holes in the box, tentative, exploring. I almost laughed. I pressed my knees tighter together, feeling the satin shift against my skin. He's going to love this. Another finger joined the first, then a hand. The cardboard pressed in as the hand slid along the surface, slow, curious. My stomach fluttered, and I leaned slightly into the touch. And then another hand. Not one.
2.
I froze. 4 fingers. 4 hands. A chill ran down my spine, erasing the warmth I'd felt seconds before. I couldn't breathe. My eyes darted toward the tiny air holes, but all I saw was darkness. The fingers disappeared. I stayed silent. Still. Voices. Male voices. Who had this great idea? Was it you, Marcus? Or you, Johns? Francis. It was Francis. Relief crashed over me so hard I almost sighed aloud. But then I heard the edge in his voice, half amused, half irritated. "No way, man," one of them said. "Not me. Not me either." Francis laughed, but it was sharp. "I bet it was Henry. I shouldn't have given him the damn garage key. He's probably on his way right now." Henry? Who the hell was Henry? The laughter faded, and then Francis's tone shifted. Lower, sharper. I told you guys we needed to calm down for a while. I told you things had to cool off until and got past it.
And
My name. My chest tightened. Calm down, cool off. What the hell was he talking about? I wanted to burst out of the box, rip off the lid, and make them all look me in the eye. But my hands wouldn't move. My legs wouldn't move. I stayed curled up inside that box, sweating and shaking in the dark. I clenched my fists, biting my tongue so hard I tasted blood. I wanted to scream, but instead, I pressed my lips together and stayed quiet.
not yet.
The gift is already here. Let's take advantage of it. I heard the words, low, hungry, and my breath caught in my throat. Francis didn't hesitate. I agree. Let's make it quick. I have to get to some boring Christmas dinner later.
Bastard.
I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw ached. My fists curled inside the box, my nails digging into my palms. The cushion under my knees suddenly felt thin, useless. This was Francis, my husband, the man I had promised to love, to trust. And here he was, casual, impatient, filthy. They didn't open the box. Not yet. Instead, hands pressed against the cardboard. Fingers slid over the surface, circling the holes I had laughed about with June earlier. My breath hitched as the box shifted, rocking slightly as their weight surrounded me. The air inside grew thick, hot. I felt them, all of them. Their shadows darkened the pinpricks of light coming through the holes, and I knew. Francis had done this before. The way he moved, the way his voice dropped when he spoke to them, it wasn't new.
He was comfortable in this.
Experienced. My stomach twisted, but my body didn't move.
Couldn't.
The cardboard pressed against my back, the walls closing in tighter with every sound. I felt them against the edges, the heat of their breath seeping through the cracks. I should have screamed, should have kicked the box open and ended it right there. But I didn't. I listened to the way they spoke, the rough edges of their laughter, the sharp commands exchanged in low whispers. I listened to Francis, and that's when I knew.
This wasn't about me. This was about them.
Francis was used to this, to control, to order. He wasn't just part of this game, he was leading it. His voice cut through the haze again. Don't leave any marks. She's supposed to be perfect when it's unwrapped.
Perfect.
The word hung in the air, thick and bitter. Perfect for him, for his act. But I wasn't perfect. Not anymore. I closed my eyes as the box shifted again, rocking with their weight, their heat. I felt every inch of it, the pressure, the movement, the sounds bleeding through the cardboard. And with each second, I stopped feeling like a gift. I felt like proof. Proof that Francis had lied. Proof that he'd done this before. Brought in strangers, shared bodies, paid for pleasure. My breaths came faster, shallower. The lace dug into my skin, sticky now, like it was suffocating me. But I didn't move. I let it happen. Let the walls close in. Let the sounds fill the air until I wasn't sure where they ended and I began. Because I needed this. I needed to know what he was. I needed to see him. When it was over, the air felt colder. The box shifted one last time as one of them tapped the lid. Not bad. Henry's gonna be pissed he missed it. Laughter. Zippers. The sound of footsteps fading away. But not Francis. Francis lingered. I could feel him outside the box, his breath still heavy. The faint smell of sweat and aftershave curling through the holes. Merry Christmas. I stayed there. Knees burning, skin sticky, heart hollow. I waited until the silence was thick again. Thicker than before. Until the walls felt like they were swallowing me whole. And then I broke. Not loud. Not messy. Just a single sob, small and sharp, cutting through the air like glass. Francis had done this before. He had paid for this before. And now, I wasn't his wife anymore. I was just another gift. Time to unwrap the gift and get more comfortable, Francis said. I heard it, the excitement in his voice, the hunger. And the others? They panted like animals. Because that's what they were, animals.
No. Beasts.
The box shifted, the tape peeled away, and then light. I blinked against it, my legs trembling as the top flaps were thrown open. And then I saw them. Their faces. The shock. It hit first, raw and sudden, like someone had thrown cold water over them. One of them, Marcus or John, who the hell cares, stumbled back, his foot catching on the rug. He fell, landing hard, his mouth hanging open like a dumb, terrified animal. But it was Francis who made the scene. He grabbed his head, his fingers tangled in his hair, and started screaming, "What the hell is this? What the actual F** is this?" He spun around, his voice echoing through the room, fists pounding against the walls so hard the frames rattled. "How could you do this to me?"
How?
To him? My nails dug into my thighs, and for the first time in what felt like hours, I stood up. The lace clung to my skin, the cheap velvet cushion forgotten as I rose out of that box like something reborn. Francis turned, his eyes red, his breathing wild. But before he could speak, the front door burst open. "How's the party?"
Henry.
The last piece of their disgusting little circle. His grin froze the second he saw me, standing there, half naked, exposed, but no longer afraid. The others didn't even give him time to ask questions. They grabbed him, shoved him out the door, and ran like cowards. And then it was just us. Francis and me. He wouldn't look at me at first. He just stood there, red-faced and sweating, his hands still shaking, his eyes darting between me and the box like he couldn't decide what to focus on. And then tears. Not real ones. Not guilt. Not remorse. Just humiliation. He wiped his face like it was my fault, like I had done something to him. "You've ruined everything," he muttered. "Everything?" I laughed. Sharp. Hollow. "Ruined what? Your little club? Your weekly F** fests with the boys?" His jaw clenched, but I didn't let him speak. I stepped closer, so close I could feel his breath, hot and sour. "Get out." His eyes snapped to mine.
What?
"Grab your things, Francis. Go find your comfort in some filthy brothel far away from here." His face twisted, anger, shame, maybe even fear, but I didn't care. I pointed toward the bedroom.
Now.
He didn't fight me. He disappeared down the hall, slamming drawers, stuffing clothes into bags like it mattered, like anything he could pack would ever fix what he'd done. And me? I sat on the couch. The red box was still there, torn, ripped, ruined. But I didn't feel ruined. Not anymore. I felt alive. Because now, Francis was the one trapped, the animal caught in his own cage. And for the first time in months, I was the one holding the key.